on this episode of Home Shop Swap Garage. This is the second part of episode 6 where Interior Guy pretty much gets this entire episode all to himself. The speakers for the 9-speaker sound system finally arrive. There's no time to waste as the dash needs to be modified for the new speakers. The upholstery needs to be finished and then it's on to build the center pod. You definitely want to watch till the end and see how the 10-inch tablet is built into the dash and will work for the car. All this Fun Fiero fabrication can be found in this automotive unreality show, Lost Not Forgotton's Home Shop Swap Garage.
Alright, now we're getting to some fun stuff. Alright, let's see what kind of toys we have. We have a 2000 watt Pioneer amp. We have a 10-inch 1200 watt sub Pioneer. Right here we've got some Pioneer 5 1/4 speakers. We have 6.5-inch speakers, Pioneer, and we've got 6x9 Pros. I'm excited about this speaker, 92 decibels, this thing, really good ratings. And then last but not least, amp wiring kit. So I've been commissioned to assist Interior Guy in the design of the subwoofer enclosure while he's out actually building the interior. And in case you weren't familiar with subwoofer enclosure designs, they do actually require a certain amount of airspace. When you purchase a subwoofer, it comes with a sheet similar to this that has a lot of what may come off as nonsense to the untrained eye, such as QMS, QES, QTS, VAS, displacement. These are all important numbers to help calculate the space enclosure for that particular subwoofer. In our case, the Pioneer subwoofer we're using has a minimum requirement of 0.65 cubic feet for a sealed enclosure. So I've come up with the design of 12-inch wide by 16-inch tall and 10-inch deep, which would give us a total volume of 0.71 cubic feet, which is above the 0.65 minimum required for the subwoofer. So we're well within our volume, and we have a little to spare just in case. So I'm going to go ahead and print this out and give it to Interior Guy so he can start building it. Alright, so as you can see, the 6x9 just really, even the magnet on this guy, which by the way, this is a gorgeous speaker, doesn't even fit through. So this is about what a 6x9 would look like in a 4x10 size space. Obviously not going to work, so we're going to have to cut the dash around here. So what I did is I purchased some 6x9 MDF rings that I'm going to fabricate into the dash. So I went ahead and outlined the speaker, and so that is the absolute point that I cannot cut. Everything else around this area I can cut and kind of mesh in with the dash. I also have to account for the mounting holes for the dash here, which I've already done, and it's just a matter of cutting both the dash and the speaker ring to fit together. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and incorporate those in and See if it works. Well, that was a process, but as you can see, 6x9 rings are in. They're not bonded on yet, they're just set in there. But putting 6x9s in a Fiero dash is a project that's not for the faint of hearts. First, you have the frame inside the car that holds the dash, so you can't go past this lip here. And then down here, you kind of start getting into the integrity of the dash. And then you also have the ducting system that you have to deal with. Now for this one, the passenger side duct, because the voice coils are so big, I did have to notch it, but aside from that, I was able to get it to fit by the skin of my teeth. So next I'm going to bond this in and we will go from there. Well, I need the vent to match the leather, so it's kind of a dark gray, we're going to make it black. Alright, so I think the dash is ready for assembly. We are making some good progress. Just a couple of key points that I wanted to go over, like with 6x9s. My original intent was to use expanding foam where the 4x10s used to be, and that way it would give it more of a seamless look. I end up having to abandon that because the way the 6x9s sit in, I can't get to the screw holes where the dash would mount to the car, so I left it open so that I could reach under with the screws and kind of bolt it into the dash that way. The problem I have with these particular 6x9s are they're so deep and so large that in the car they hit the windshield, so I can't actually pull them out to put the screw in. So I'm going to have to finagle my way under and bolt it in that way. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but I think I should be able to get it to work. And then for the defroster vents, the grill was painted black. The upholstery is kind of tucked down in, so it's a bit of a tight fit, but it does go down nonetheless, so it'll just be a little extra effort to kind of push it down so that we can bolt this back on. Alright, and then the reupholstered glove box, this guy here, like I said, it's a bit tight being upholstery on top of upholstery, but it works. So all we're going to do basically is mount this back in, and then we'll bolt this back on, and then that will be good to go. Then we have the air vents for the car. This was done in a carbon fiber wrap, which I have to say turned out gorgeous. I'm very happy with how these turned out. I think it's a very nice accent because I definitely don't want an overpowering amount of blue. I want blue to just kind of be a mild highlight, not necessarily an overpowering sense of color in the car. So doing these in carbon fiber definitely keeps the car looking more modern and a bit better quality and not so much plastic. but these look fantastic. Alright, then we have the HVAC ducting work, which also needed to be modified for the dash and the speaker setup. So if you actually face it this way, so it's in perspective. For my custom center pod, the radio is going to sit where the air vents used to be. So not only did I have to delete the air vents, but I actually had to notch them in so that the radio could sit far enough back in. And that actually worked out well because the air vent ducts, you can see that this duct was much larger going to the passenger side because it also included the center pod vents. So by notching this in, it actually kind of restricts the airflow a little bit on this side to hopefully better balance the airflow to both sides of the vents. So with that, I think we're ready to get going. Let's get this dash together. Woo! That was one heavy puppy with those 6x9s. Alright, so in order to put this in, the screws are already in the dash. I just have to actually screw them in. But as I mentioned before, the 6x9s won't come out with the windshield. So I'm going to try and pull them out as much as I can, slide them over, get a wrench in there, and wrench it down. It is possible, but it's going to be a huge pain. But let me go ahead and do that, and I'll check back with you. Alright, so what we're doing is we're cutting up 2 center console pods to make one bigger one. So hopefully this works because one was from the blue car, one is from this car, so these are all we have to work with. Hopefully we won't mess it up, but we cut one up, and we cut them both up, and the idea is to take 2 and make it into one as such. And I'm going to bond a piece of plastic the entire length up and down to give it some rigidity. We're going to build an internal frame to hold everything together, and then kind of the same concept with the center gauge pod. I've got 2 of these. I'm going to cut this one in half. The other one I'm going to cut it in thirds, and then take the center piece and kind of stretch this out to make it wide enough to cover the whole length of that for the tablet pod. And then we'll kind of build a frame and hold all that together. So a lot of fabricating, a lot of work to do, so I gotta get back to it. Up until this point, I've been using the spare tire well from the blue car to fabricate brackets out of plastic using the flat sections of this wheel well. But right now, I'm running out of sections and I've decided to order a piece of ABS plastic that I'm going to use to fabricate the trim piece for the center pod as well as the switch plate for the center console. So I'm really excited to use this. And we'll cut it up to maybe use some other brackets as well. But this is a nice big piece of ABS plastic. Let's cut this thing up. Well, the dash is currently not installed. We're going to go ahead and run the power and remote wires for our amps. We're going to have 2 amps, one behind each seat. And it'll just be a lot easier to run everything, make it look clean, and then we'll go ahead and put the center pod in. I'm really excited. We are really coming together. Our fuse that we need to mount. So what I'm thinking is we'll run the wire in and under the spare tire well. We'll come out this corner here because there's a large enough gap. We'll mount the fuse right here so it's accessible and the wire's out of the way. And then run it back out and into the car from there. So it'll kind of be a little swoopy, but I definitely want to keep it away from the spare tire and the installation removal of both the tire and the battery. So we want to tuck it under, so we'll do what we can. All right, we're good to go. So I mounted this bracket that used to hold the GT gauges. Now we're gonna use that as a support for the top half of this. Install time. Alright, yes, this is all coming together and this looks incredible. Hopefully this is accurately relaying what was in my imagination is now becoming a reality. This is cool. We've got our tablet-based center pod that only sits just a few inches taller than a normal Fiero, but still from my perspective as a driver, does not obstruct the windshield at all. And we have a top piece here that's being held on with Velcro, as well as these 2 screws up here for the faceplate. And the intention with that is you take the screws out on the top, you peel the Velcro off, and then you can pull the tablet out if you want to update it, use it, you know, prevent it from getting stolen. Other than that, this is kind of the first iteration of my design. This is going to run digital gauges. And then we've got our double DIN radio that can do the DVD, the GPS, and all that. There's still some more I want to show you on this, but we'll save that for later. And then we've got our heater controls down here. And I think the black leather on the carbon fiber looks great. I really can't wait for this to all come together. But to give you what you're looking for, I'm sure you want to see what this looks like. So we're going to try our first ignition start to have everything boot up and see if it goes the way I'd like it to. Alright, ignition's on, gauges boot up, boom, here comes radio. It's going to go through its boot process. But as you can see, we've got our normal gauges that you'd find. But what's great is the Fiero now has total fuel economy, instant fuel economy, and all that. I've also got a boost gauge because this is supercharged now. And what happens if you want to take it to the track? Boom, you've got race gauges, which you can modify to be whatever you want. So in this case, you know, we've got engine temperature, speed, RPM, we've got horsepower, we've got torque, we've got boost, throttle positions, level. We also have boost gauges and G meters, so that you can measure the force of whatever it is you want to do if you're going on track, if you're autocrossing. So yeah, I mean, that is awesome. If you want to know more about what apps I'm using to make this boot right up and go right to gauges and all that, I'll cover more of that in episode 8. This is just kind of a preview of what's up. I still have more tuning to do with this, but this is awesome. As for the radio, there's no speakers hooked up and there's no antenna mast, so we're not getting any reception and we're not going to listen to anything. All that'll be for episode 8 as well. But when I turn the car off, this will stay on for 10 seconds. I can probably make it turn off instantly, but for now we'll leave it for hanging on for 10 seconds before powering down. But it is controlled by the ignition. I don't have to turn it on. I don't have to boot to Android. It goes right to the gauges every time. As you see, it turned off. Turn it back on again. And then we boot right up to gauges. Faster than the radio can boot up. So, yeah. That's a quick preview of that. I still have a lot of work to do to get this interior together before the end of episode 7 or 8. So I'm going to start working on the center console. And then we're going to get all this together. So, thanks for watching. I got to get back to work.
Boy, you're about to get schooled by a girl. I got this. I got this.